We'll have a look at his head collar whilst we're here. There's not much in his head collar, to be honest, but we'll have a look at his head collar now. So what I'm going to do is this bit across here, I'm going to take a warm grey one, and this bit down here. Take a warm grey one and just go across that head collar, just go across that noseband. You can say there's not much in here, but we can get something in that makes it look like a head collar. I'm going in with a bit of cinnamon in this area here, and I'm taking the cinnamon across his noseband. I don't want to completely fill the area in with cinnamon. I want this grey to come through, this warm grey one that we've just put down. But I'm just putting a bit of the cinnamon in, and I'm going to blend that in areas as well. Just blend that out with the burnt ochre. 10%. I want to take a cold grey, so I'm going to take the cold grey 4, and in this area here, and a bit down here as well actually, I'm just going to use little circular motions, and I just want to get some cold grey here, along here. I'm not pressing on hard, I just want to press on lightly. And just take that cold grey along there. And also around this nose a little bit. And then I'm going to take a Payne's grey, and just on the outside edge of this head collar here, so let's just tidy that up, and let's put a little bit of Payne's grey onto this edge here. And it's going to start to sort of shape, it's going to start to go over, so this is already starting to shape itself here, so it's sort of coming up in a little curve. Obviously it's following the nose round. And then I can see we've got 1, 2, 3 lines in the middle. So if I just plot these in, so we've got one that sort of comes up to about there, follows that. Another one that comes up to about there, and then another one. To about there. I'm going to take that ultramarine blue again, and just on the edge there I want to put a bit of that ultramarine in, just on that edge, and then along those lines that I've just plotted in, I'm going to soften them with a little circular stroke. And on the end here it all becomes a bit blurry, it's a bit less defined, so I'm going to let that blend in. A little bit more, and then I'm just going to follow along these lines, and then this bit here becomes a bit more grey, so I'm going to put a bit more of the Payne's grey here. Let's take a bit of the cinnamon and blend that. Blend across the top. And blend this area here. And then this time I'll take the dark sepia. Now that comes across here. But we had this shadow that was coming underneath, so that's okay. That's actually got a bit of cinnamon under there, so I've just popped that under there. work on the bit of shadow underneath. Pop those shadows back in. I'm going to go back into this bit here with a bit of the coal grey into that area. And I'm going to pop a tiny little bit of the indigo blue down in the corner down here. And then just along these lines, just to lift them just a fraction. Take that over there where that blue was on the other side as well. I'm going to blend this with the brown ochre 10%. And this time I'm going to go in over the top of that with the sepia just to define these lines on this head collar just a little bit. Back in with a warm grey one under here. And actually I'll put a bit of base layer in there, put a warm grey in there as well. And I'm just going to tidy this up with the sepia. So that comes, and then there's a bit that comes down there actually. And just sort of comes round and sort of goes up and under the fur that's coming round there. I want to use a bit of the burnt ochre 10% in this one here, this area here. And then in with the Payne's grey. And there isn't much in there, I'm just shaping it a little bit. Just adding a little bit of detail and a bit of shape. Back in with the dark sepia. And then again on this side there is some burnt ochre 50% here right on the side, and I'm going to go in with a bit of the dark sepia to just shape that a little bit. And there really isn't, you can't even see much in there, it's just a little bit of colour and a bit of shape. I'm going to go on this side with the burnt ochre 10% because I can see a slight sort of pinkiness to it even though it's grey. I'm going with the coal grey 4, so even though it's grey I can still see a pinkiness to it. I'm just keeping the pencils coming down because you can see that it's all quite sort of blurry. Keeping the pencils coming down in the direction that I can see on the reference photograph. And then in with dark sepia. Oh, a bit of the Payne's grey actually. And just keep that nice and loose there. Quite blurry. Go into that bit with a bit of warm grey and just bring that around there. I just need you to come around there a little bit to shape the side of that head. I'm going to go in with a little bit of the Pablo white to just put some tiny little bits of white in there. There isn't much that you can see, but just make that white. I didn't want to lose that bit either, did I? Just going along the edge of this head collar and I'm just breaking this line up a little bit, top and bottom, just breaking that up. And I'm just going to take a kneadable eraser and I'm just going to just sweep it over this head collar a little bit, just to catch a highlight here and there. There we go, that's all that I need to do. So let's work down the side of this neck a little bit. Let's just bring this down with a cold grey one. I just want to get some good base layer down here. That bit's going to go dark, so I'm just going to leave that for the minute. I just want to bring a nice bit of cold grey. Now I want it to come, so for a start it's going to come around under here. So it comes around here. Let's take out that little bit. I'm just looking to see where this shadow area is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of the brown ochre 10%. Just in areas so that I can get this lovely light in here. So I'm going to put a little bit of brown ochre 10% in there, and then I can go back to this cold grey. And then what I want to do is down this side, I'm going to take a little bit of the ultramarine just down this side, just little circular motions. I'm going to blend it out. I just want a tiny touch of that blue down there and also down there. Tiny touch of the blue. And also there actually, there's going to be a little bit of blue. That goes around there. It's just a tiny little bit. And then I'm going to go in with the coal grey too and just blend that out a little bit. So I'm blending this bit here, down here, down that side. Blend this out. Put some of this coal grey under this darker area. Just blend this out as well, where I've put this blue, this ultramarine. I just want to blend it out and start to shape this area a little bit, so bring it down this way. Right on the edge of this neck here, I'm going to feather up some of this coal grey too. Feather that up there. So I'm going to take a dark sepia and I'm just going to roughly draw in the circle on the back of this head colour. I don't know whether it was on the line drawing or whether I've just missed it and didn't put it on. But anyway, I'm drawing it in. And I'm going to draw that up there. That comes down there. And then that carries on around there. I'm going to go in with the coal grey 2 as a base layer, that bit. But obviously this bit here I want to keep white. I'm going to pop in the white Pablo. And you can see I didn't want it to necessarily look white, but all the white's done is picked up on the bits of colour that was underneath and just blended it. So I've just created a colour in there. And that's coal grey in there as well. And then I'm going to take the dark sepia and it's going to come, so we're going to feather it around here, feather it up there as well actually. It's very dark in there. And I'm going to use the Payne's grey to just add a little bit of colour. There's not much colour in there, just a little bit to shape it. And there's a little bit that comes down there. I just don't want there to be a harsh line on this, on the outside of this head collar. I'm just going to take the coal grey and just blend that. And then I'm just taking a coal grey 4 and just adding a dark little bit. I'll go in with the Payne's grey as well, just a dark bit. Just so that I can start to shape this fur underneath. A bit of the sepia as well. Shape that round there. I want to bring in a bit of the Payne's grey, 30%, because it's quite a grey sort of blue and it's all in shadow on this side, so whilst it's blue it's still quite sort of dark. So I'm going to bring this Payne's grey round. And I'm going to leave a little bit of this burnt ochre to represent the dappled light. Just going to leave a little bit. I'm going to bring this area together around this side with a coal grey 1 and just using little circular strokes. So I want to bring this together on this side with a silver grey from the Luminance. I'm just going to bring this around. Just leaving a little bit of this brown ochre, 10%. Here and there, just to represent the little touches of light, the little catch, the little bits of this lovely sunlight. I'm going to bring this round, bring this together. I'm just using little circular strokes at the minute to just bring this around on this side. I want to get it quite sort of blended in the end, but I'm just working on getting a little bit of a blend over the bluey grey areas, but leaving these areas of light. I want to use a coal grey 6, so where we've got this little bit of direction in the fur here, I just want to go in with a coal grey 6 and pop that in. I still want to be able to see that ultramarine. I'm just going to pop that in. And I'm just going to add a few sort of gestures of fur. I don't want to put fur in everywhere. I don't want it to be, you know, I don't want it to take over, but I just want to get a little bit of definition of fur here and there. I'm just coming down this side as well. Into that bit. And I'm coming off these dark bits that we put in at the top. Just tidy those up, neaten those up. I can see that that little ring there needs to go darker. So let's just pop a bit of shadow behind that. There we go. I just put a little bit of texture in. So I'm coming down this, the edge of this blue with the coal grey. I don't want to completely take away from that coal grey. I just want to add a little bit of texture to the one side of it. I'll bring that down and I'll bring that one down. And still leaving that lovely light in areas, because this burnt ochre is going to give the suggestion of that dappled light. And I'm just going to take a kneadable eraser and just every now and again where I can see a little highlight, I'm just going to pull a highlight through with this kneadable eraser. And then I'm going to take a white, again from the Luminance range, and just blend this together a little bit. And just keep this nice and fluffy and blended. And fill this grain in. That's what I really want to do. Just sort of fill this grain in and blend this together. This area around here, again, this has got quite a lot of lovely light to it. So what I want to do is get a nice base layer of buff titanium into this area. So I'm just using the buff titanium from the Luminance range. I'm getting a nice base layer into there. I'm going to shape a little bit of it with this light flesh 10%. So I'm just going to shape areas of it really lightly. I don't want to press on too hard with this. I just want to press on quite lightly with this light flesh because it is quite strong. It's quite a strong colour. But I've just got a little bit of that into it. And then I'm going to go in with this light cobalt blue. Add a little bit of structure to this lovely fluffy area. It's going to come down there. And then I'm going to use a warm grey 3 to just start to build up some of the shadows. So at the minute I'm just looking for some of the shadows now in this area. I just want to build up a few of the shadows really lightly. I don't want to press on hard. There's a little bit of Bista or that sort of colour in here, so I'm going to use a bit of Bista. I'm just looking where I can see this sort of browny yellowy colour and just build that up a little bit. I don't want to press on hard, I want to keep this really light. Just bring that round and then I'm going to go into a grey. And I'm going to use a Van Dyke brown here actually because it's almost like a pinky brown. So we're going to use a bit of Van Dyke brown there and in that one. And to join these two together, so into the blue. keeping these pencil strokes just really light all the time. I want them to be quite sort of fluffy, and I don't want them to become too dark. I want to blend this out a little bit, so I'm going to blend this out with a bit of the warm grey 1. Blend that around there. It's going to make that a little bit darker. That needs to be a definition between the head and the body there. And just transition that in. And for texture like this, it's going to be much easier to get a better result, in my opinion anyway, if you just put lots of light layers down rather than try to put, you know, quite a few heavy layers down. You're just going to be able to keep that lovely softness. And still just working on light bits of texture in this. This bit under his chin and down his chest. And I'm using that backwards and forwards motion that, you know, I used to create the fur, keeping the strokes longer. I want to sort of, it's almost like his mane, isn't it? I want to, in fact, it may even be called his mane, I don't know, but I want to keep that sort of suggestion of long hair in there, but I don't want it, I don't want to draw like one long line of hair in. I want to keep that backwards and forwards first stroke that we use to come down the length of the mane. And I'm actually tipping my pencil on the side, and that means I can get a much sort of softer finish to it. I can get a softer sort of look. Well, I'm just going to tint areas down here as well to just create some of this texture down here. Again, just using this pencil on its side. so that I can keep this nice and light. And this pencil on its side is a technique that I do often use for manes actually, because, or you know, really long fur, because it just means that I can keep that softness. I'm almost looking to shade the areas in rather than draw hair and fur. I just want to create sort of almost like blocks of colour really. And I find that that gives me a more realistic finish. I'm just going to add a little bit more blue into this area here because this is quite blue here. So I'm going back in with the light cobalt blue. And I'm just blending this. I'm blending up here as well. Almost just putting a glaze over the area. I'm just going to put a bit there. And a bit of blue down there. And then just bring this blue down in places. So there we are. We need to darken it down a little bit in areas. I'm just going to grab a dark sepia and just bring this down to put a bit of texture in. But we've just created a main area that is obviously in shadow, but it's just got those lovely touches of light here and there. I'm just going to pick a little bit of this out with the dark sepia, and also I'm going to go back in and I'm just going to darken that down because I really do need that to be a distinction between the cheek and then the neck. And then I'm going to blend out with this buff titanium. Which is a really light colour, but it's got that lovely creamy sort of beige tint to it. It's a really, really useful colour. I do use it quite a lot. And just put a bit of glaze along here of that buff titanium. Just where the lighter areas are, I don't want to take it up here because obviously this is really sort of dark shadow up here, but where this the sunlight's catching down here, I'm going to use that to blend so that it just adds to the effect of that sunlight there. There we go. I might go back in and darken bits of that, but on the whole I think that's okay there, I like that now. Okay, let's move down to the area under his chest under here. Let's just take a kneadable eraser and just dab some of those lines back. Take those back a little bit. And then I'm going to come into this area with a warm grey one and come down the front of his chest down here. So come down under here. I'm not putting this this little buckle, this clip for the halter under his chest. I'm not going to put that in. I'm going to come down. I'm going to come down to the top of his legs down here, and we'll just work on that bit at once. So come round under here. I'm going to bring the warm grey around this little patch here, which is quite light. So I'm going to go into that little patch with a little bit of brown ochre 10%. And I'm just going to put a base layer of that in here. I'm not too worried about these pencil lines because this is going to go darker in here. If it was going to be really light, I would take these pencil lines out. I'm just going to come around there, and also I'm going to go up and under this little bit under here with a bit of Naples ochre for the base layer on this side and around here. And then I'm going to bring in a bit of the buff titanium underneath. And put a bit of the buff titanium in here as well. Okay, so we've got some base layer in. Down here is a little bit of the burnt ochre from the Polychromos range. So I'm going to come in with a bit of this down here. And I'm just going to bring the pencil around the side down here because I can sort of see that the fur's coming around his well, the other side of his shoulder on the inside, the top of his leg. So I'm going to bring the brown ochre around that way. And bring it down this side as well. And I've put a little bit of brown ochre in, and I can definitely see there's some pink in there. So I'm going to go in now with some cinnamon. And pop a bit of cinnamon under this jaw. It's going to go along there and go under that jaw. And then bring this down. There we go, so I've brought some of that down. I'm just going to go back with a little bit of the yellow Naples ochre into this bit here. Just add a little bit of the yellow in there. Blend that out a little bit. I want to come into this area with a bit of bistre. Start to bring a bit of brown into here. Just see a little bit of shadow here, so I'm just going to pop that in. And again on this side, I'm just taking the pencil over this way a little bit, so I can see the fur just starting to come around the top of that leg. I'm going to bring a little bit of that Venetian red under here again to add that lovely sort of pink red colour, and bring that over. And then I'm going to come in with some Van Dyke Brown and start to add a little bit of this darker colour coming through here and up and under. Up and under this lovely white sort of part of his coat that's coming around here. Take that up and under there. just going to put a bit of dark at the top of this lighter patch as well. Bring this through. Don't want to press on hard. I want to build these layers up nice and slowly so that I can get some good colours, you know, lots of colours and texture into here, and blend these colours down on the page. I'm going to come into this area as well with a bit of the burnt umber. So I'm going to go over this Van Dyke brown that I've already put in and just darken it down with some burnt umber. And I've just gone to little circular motions because there isn't really much definition of fur that you can see in here. I can see these lighter areas, but I can't really see much definition. So I'm going to go to circular motions. And then I'm going to use backwards and forwards directional strokes to bring some fur in. And just blend this again with a little bit of cinnamon. Keep that pink coming through. I'm going to come into this area as well with a warm grey 6 and start to bring a little bit of depth through this fur where I can see it's darker. And it takes a bit of time to fill an area because I'm just working with really, really light pressure, but it means that I can, by putting lots of light layers down, it means that I can build up these colours and sort of create the colours down on the paper and use the paper as a palette really to mix the colours. So that's one of the reasons that I use the light pressure. That and the fact that I don't want to crush the tooth of the paper down. I don't want to crush the tooth of the paper so that I can't add any more colour down, because once the tooth of the paper is crushed, it's very hard then to, almost impossible to get the paper to take more colour and more pigment off the pencil. I'm going to come into this area around here and just start to put a bit of this shape into this fur under here. It's going in some lovely directions under here, and it's definitely sort of changing, and you've got these lovely colours in here. So I'm just going to put a bit of that in there now with the Bister. Just gone in with the Bister. And I'm also going to come in with a bit of the Van Dyke Brown and add a bit of that in as well. Shaping it but keeping the individual bits of fur coming down. I'm going to blend that a little bit with a bit of the cinnamon on the outside. And then a bit of the buff titanium. I'm going to come back in with the Naples yellow again and come over the top of this. Under this neck. And blend the top of this brown patch into this lighter area a little bit with this Naples yellow, just taking the yellow up. I'm going to come through this area with a bit of dark sepia and darken it down a little bit. It's really quite dark under there. Just going to come around the outside of this jaw as well a little bit, just to make sure that that's nice and defined. And bring this fur over this way. I'm just going to blend this up a little bit further actually with a bit of Bista. Just take it a little bit further. It goes further up to the side of that face. So I'm just going to blend that a little bit. And then bring this darker bit around here. Okay, let's just blend this a little bit over here with a buff titanium. It's taken quite a while, hasn't it, just to build up this little area, but there's quite a few colours that have gone down into this area. Let's build that up a little bit. Coming in with this cinnamon as well around here. Blend it out with the cinnamon. Definitely a bit of this Venetian red again. Blend this out. And it's just sort of blending and putting a glaze over the top of the coat again with this Venetian red. Taking that through. A little bit on this side as well, just a little bit. Go back in and just feather that into the lighter area with this burnt ochre 10%. And a bit of the buff titanium. Okay, so I think that's a good place to leave this part of the tutorial here. So we'll leave it there for now. Thanks very much for drawing along with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part of the tutorial. Thanks very much. Bye for now.